Now for a movie rant break, One Up presents a movie rant break. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Movie Rant Break. Today I got a new special episode. I'm going to be starting a new series today called Stuff in Movies. And I thought a good starting topic today for this whole new series I'm about to start doing is mushroom stuff in movies with two new guests. One, the first guest, we got PsilocyBen.
What's up, man?
What's up? Appreciate you coming on the show. And we got Jonathan Leavitt, director of the Maine Fungi Fest.
Yeah, that's it, man.
Word. So I'm happy to have you guys on the show. Anybody that listens to the show, they know I'm a big into psilocybin, big into mushrooms, think they're great. And you're having a festival in May, and I think that's super dope. And I want to talk about that and incorporate some movies. So yeah, let's talk about it. What's
May Fungi Fest 2023. We maybe a little over a year and a half ago, a buddy of mine who's a well-known cannabis physician in the state, we're talking about what's next, what's on the horizon, and we came to the conclusion, obviously, that psilocybin is on a lot of people's minds these days across the country, across the world, trying to find new modalities of healing, trying to find new modalities of consciousness expansion. So we decided let's bring the community together here in Maine, and we held the first Maine Fungi Fest at the Portland Expo, and we had about 1,500 people through the gate last year. And this year we are evolving it, as we all should be working on that concept, and we are expanding it to 2 days, actually a little bit over 2 days, to be held at the Holiday Inn at the Bay, where we're going to have speakers and workshops and demonstrations and live art and live music and Alice in Wonderland costume ball and burlesque show and a vendor fair and sound healing, massage therapy, all sorts of things that it's as we like to say, it is going to be a festival for the mind. And,
wow.
Yeah.
That sounds dope. Because someone sent me a flyer regarding this festival, and I'm surprised I didn't hear about it last year. But what started you? What made you start the Fungi Fest last year? Like, was there like?
Well, we needed a when you start kind of undertaking a campaign to change the norms and change the laws, you got to bring the community together and introduce everybody to each other and find out who's out there. To be successful, you got to have people coming from all different stratas, all different walks, all different arenas. And so, having a gathering, it needs a name that people can rally around and a general idea. And that's the first step. And then once you get those folks in the same room, the shock waves go out and things start happening. So out of last year, we put together a coalition that spent about 8 months kind of coming up with language that will be in front of the Maine legislature this year, which will allow for personal use of psilocybin, home production, as well as the ability for people to offer guide services for people who are utilizing psilocybin in a session. So, that's what happens when you bring people together and the conversation begins. And then, we wanted to just make it bigger and add more depth to it, and that's what we're doing this year. It's all designed to move a campaign forward and to start conversations that have been going on for a long time, but not enough people are paying attention.
Yeah, I agree, and I think a lot of people have a misconception of what psilocybin really is, and I think in movies you get a weird perception of what it is. Like, I myself have done psilocybin for a minute, and the scenes where people are like tripping or whatever, and there's a lot of incorrect ways that they're portraying how people act or the effects that they feel in movies. Have you noticed that in films? Either of you? Have you?
Absolutely. Excuse me. It always seems over the top.
Yeah.
Like it's so much more than it actually really is in real life. Like, it's every dramatized experience that anybody's ever told you. The crazy extreme visuals like floating dragons and things like that. I've never had anything like that in my previous usage of it. Like,
for real. And like, I know at Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, they show the lizards, which I fucking love that scene. When they're in the
impossible to walk in this bar.
Like, that shit's so fucking funny. But I've done some serious doses of psilocybin and acid, and I'm telling you what, you do not see things that are not there. I'm telling everybody out there for now. And if you are, I don't know what that is.
It's not clean. Don't take it.
Yeah, like there's a lot of wiggling and moving and circling, if you will, and your eyes can play tricks on you, you could say. But yeah, that's one thing in films, you know, they just overdo it, I think. And it's funny sometimes, and I appreciate it, but sometimes I'm like, whoever's editing or doing this post-production in this film has no fucking clue what
Somebody told them what it was like when they were.
So I'm torn in this discussion because there's the side of me as the organizer which wants to tone down everything to make it palatable to the general public. There's the other part of me who's been exploring psychedelics for 3 decades, who can tell you I have honestly seen things and experienced things that you're right. I think they are there, but it's, you know, I think I when I try to explain what psychedelics do to folks, I always I go to the easy route of talking about Huxley would talk about the doors of perception and the idea that, you know, your brain is hit with stimuli from all your senses, and it's a massive amount of information, right? And the role of your cortex is to filter out what's relevant to keeping you alive. And that means letting less than 1% of that go through. With psychedelics, they open up the doors of perception, and they allow more information to get through. So you end up getting closer to reality than the way we usually exist. And I have seen things. I've seen trees that are breathing. You know, I've seen direct communication between different species.
Yeah, but that's different than a dragon flying by you. You know, that's.
You know,
I tapped into the mycelium. That's a different animal.
I think the wonderful thing about psychedelics is that experience is you know, it can go from, you know, moderate to way over the top. It can, and I don't think I don't think that necessarily it's a bad experience either. There's no such thing as a bad trip. You know, these are all, every time we go through this, we're supposed to learn something.
It's always a lesson. That's exactly what I was going to say.
And sometimes those are spectacular fails or spectacular explorations into light and sound and immersion and experience, and that are way different than what we experience as real on a day-to-day basis.
No. By the way, there's some static thing going on. Just ignore it. I don't know what the fuck that is. I don't know if you hear that. Just ignore it. Some cable's fucked up or something, but it could be a phone.
I was gonna say, is it cell phone interference?
It could be
Let's
this
move these
phone.
away. Yeah, I bet you that's what it was.
It could be.
Told you I used to work at Radio Shack.
Yeah. Shout out to Radio
Yeah.
Shack. No, I was just like really perplexed.
Yeah, they fixed it. It was the phone. It was the phone frequency.
You motherfucker. PsilocyBen in this house, just fucking shit up. You mentioned there's 2 things I want to add on that. You say bad trip, right? I think a bad trip is essentially someone that is overwhelmed by the reality that they are realizing. Where people are like, oh, I've done mushrooms, I just had a bad trip. I think reality can strike really heavy on individuals when they've never had to face it so abruptly. And that's my take on it, because it really does make you face all sorts of things. It can be some real life shit that you are compartmentalizing, or maybe it's just some weird social stuff that's happening in your immediate surroundings that makes you feel uncomfortable. Like, are they talking about me or whatever the fuck? But I think bad trips is a myth, and it's really just people that are overwhelmed by the reality that they're currently facing.
What was the term you wanted to use instead of trip?
I call it flowing.
Yeah.
Instead of tripping. I think tripping is more of like an acid thing, in my opinion. And even then, you can get more of like in a flow state, especially after you get past the first couple times that you try psilocybin and acid. You get in a flow state, and it's very comfortable. And if you accept it, and I've come up with some of the best ideas that I think I've had, and I've just overcome very troubling things in my life, and it's very comforting and relaxing, and I call it flowing. So from here on out, I'll refer, when I say flowing, that's that's what I'm saying. Thank you.
Well, I liked when you said that the other day. I was like, dude, that's awesome. I gotta remember this. I gotta start saying it. I'm gonna help you get it to catch on. Like, I'm ready for this.
Terminology is important too.
I think so too. And that's why I say bad trip or flowing, because tripping sounds negative because you fall. Which I'm not saying you don't fall in tripping or flowing, but like I think once you learn to get your balance with psilocybin, it's flowing. You're not tripping anymore, and it's a better experience. And I think that's something that I've tried to articulate to people about the importance of psilocybin, because it does have such benefits when used accordingly or guided by someone that, say, maybe is a little more familiar and can talk someone through. Someone that's having a bad trip. It's like, you're fine. Just like smoke a blunt or like smoke a cigarette or have a drink. You'll be fine. Like, give it 20. You'll be all right.
Take a walk, go outside.
Do you ever have fun with people when you're that person, when they come to you and they come to you with what they've just realized that, I don't know, that their life is ending within the next 24 hours, or they're about to be spun down like a drain along with the water in the sink, and you just
buckle up, agree
that is the reality, and then
yeah, man, I'm feeling it too. Yeah,
this is it. This is forever. Yeah, because that's the thing. I think people are like, am I stuck like this? Because that's a common thing that happens, and it's like, yes, buckle up. This is forever now.
But then they come out of it stronger.
You do. And when I was talking to you the other day, Ben, you were mentioning how a reset button is how you utilize psilocybin. And I use this. I think you can be utilized the same way. Is a good reset. You're having a loss in the family, or just dealing with something that's
it's a reset. It's a purge. I mean, it's back when I was experimenting, out of high school and everything like that. The first time I tried it, it really was just, what am I not bringing to the surface? What am I repressing? What am I not addressing correctly in my life? And this was just like, hey man, here's some solid information you have to deal with. And there was this comfort blanket about how the psilocybin brought that to the foreground. It wasn't just like, I wasn't hypnotized and I wasn't crying on some dude's couch in an office somewhere. It was just like, there was this whole sense of peace about it and this connection to everything around me, even if it did look like a small model train village when it was snowing outside. But that was just circumstantial, but it brought all of that to the foreground and really helped repress a lot of that anxiety I was having as a young adult, And then later on, many years ago, I was microdosing, and that made a huge difference.
You microdose regularly?
I haven't been for a while, but when I was, it was, I called it a soul multivitamin. Just every morning I'd take my dose, and just the day was brighter, the colors were more vivid, the sounds were brighter, my mood was elevated, and I'm like, whatever comes my way, I can handle this. It wasn't like, oh my God, they're going to look at me funny in the gas station, or whatever stupid anxiety tells you that day, whatever lie you're selling yourself. So
Word.
Personal accountability, man.
Yeah, and I think that's like plays into the bad trip thing. It's like some of those concepts come to fruition and full, like right in front of you, and you have to.
It's right here. You can't ignore it anymore.
You have to address it. And I think that's why people get like freaked out. But I'm not a microdose type. I've never microdosed, but I hear good things. I'm a macrodose type of guy.
Okay.
Yeah, a good 4 or 5 grams, some goodies. Chilling.
The reset button, yeah. Coming full circle, yeah.
Love that shit. I can't get like weekly. I try to do it. Obviously, it doesn't happen every week, but I tried to do that. It's watching your favorite movies. Like, that's my favorite shit for a flow session is like, and I got some videos on my Instagram. Did you end up checking those out with the burgers and stuff?
I saw some of your stuff, yes.
Yeah. Yes. So like, eat one of them burgers. The new thing I've got into that I really like consuming psilocybin with is pudding. The chocolate pudding. It was so efficient with high dose. Well, because I grind it up, and then you take like a snack pack and you mix it up. I'm telling you, you can put down like probably 8-9 grams in one snack pack, and you can't even.
Don't even know it's there.
Yeah, it's nice because when you start doing the high doses, it's tough to get it down. At least for me. And I'll eat some of that and then sit down on a couch and watch Alice in Wonderland.
I was gonna ask what's your favorite one? Like, what's your go-to?
There's a few. So Alice in Wonderland, and then I watch back to back Alice Through the Looking Glass.
Okay.
Yep, that's a classic. And you watch those back to back; they're so fun. And then Potter 5 through 8 of the films. You can't watch. I tried to watch Goblet of Fire flowing, and it just was. They're too little, and it's not too adult. It's not adult enough until Voldemort comes to fruition, and then you're like, okay, we got a movie now. But like,
it's like episode 1 of Star Wars. They have to explain all that, but it's really boring except for the fight scene at the end.
You're not like, it's not coming in right. But Trying to think. What's some other ones?
Did you ever see Brazil, Terry Gilliam film? I'm sure you know what that is.
Yeah.
You ever seen Brazil?
What is it?
Oh, dude, it's amazing. It's Terry Gilliam from Monty Python, and the dude that plays Shmi in Hook is in it. I can't remember his name right now.
The voice actor that does...
No, the
in
live
Hook
action
with
Hook.
Robin Williams.
I've just had an apostrophe, that guy.
Okay.
And then Robert De Niro's in it, and it's this like
Where?
post-apocalyptic kind of pseudo world run by the government, and how they're trying to, there's like the anti-government people that are coming around and fixing your smart house, and it's crazy. And there's like 28 different endings to it. It's a wild ass movie.
Really?
10 out of 10 would recommend.
Oh shit! Maybe we should review that on a different episode. I was talking about reviewing the Super Mario Bros. Film.
Dude, I'll be here in costume for that.
You should be.
Yes.
It'll be dope. Because it'll be tight. What's your go-to? Do you flow and watch films or no?
No, I don't. It hasn't.
He flows and writes musicals.
I think it's for me. I tend to want to have that open space a little more. I think I tend to just do the very predictable hippie thing, which is go out for long hikes.
Well, I do that too. For the different, there's different things I do for different flow sessions, and I always try to plan them out. Like and I'm not drunk trying to eat mushrooms. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, Saturday night I'm trying to do this, and then this is what I'm trying to do. So if I'm trying to do a heavy dose, I usually try to watch a film first because I get nauseous and I usually vomit generally. So it's nice to lay down and get through that first heavy shit where you're like just in the motherfucker, and then
like staying home with strep throat, right?
I don't get the reference.
Just like as a kid, you're eating saltines, like you're feeling sick.
Oh, word.
Price is Right's on the TV.
True. Okay.
Cliche, like I got to get through this sickness, and then I'll be better.
Yeah, so because it's heavy and it's discombobulating, and I just whatever. But there's times I love day flows, day trips. You know what I mean? Sitting in a pool, that shit's fucking lit.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I do all different versions, you know what I mean? But it's for the movie tip, that's Tron. Tron's another one.
That's the original or the new one? Or both?
Tron Legacy. I have both, but one of my favorite films of all time is Tron Legacy. And funny story back, and this is actually kind of funny, how I got into psilocybin was back in the day. I was in high school. And I remember the first time I did mushrooms, and I was like, fuck weed, I'll just do this every day.
Yeah.
Like, I remember thinking that. And then what led to, like, later on, I pedaled a little bit because I really fucked with mushrooms. Like, these are really cool. And then the IMAX came out and it was really popular. And I remember sitting front row in the IMAX.
Oh, man.
And seeing Avatar like 3 times, like front row. Yeah, I'm telling you,
that does sound good.
It's very good, and and then Tron followed that film in the box office. So then Tron came out, and I saw that like twice in IMAX in the front row, and that shit's fucking lit.
That must have been amazing.
It was, and so that's actually how I got so into mushrooms, was back trying it and then really enjoying the time, and then IMAX with it, and I was like, this shit is
so it's been a whole
crazy.
evolution that brought you here. Like,
and it's just kind of funny how that was. How old were you guys when you first tried?
18, I think.
Yeah.
18
or 19, man. And I came in.
Sorry, Mom.
Through being a deadhead and experiencing that scene as kind of my jumping off point. And that was a world that was really connected to psychedelics, and the music and the culture and the energy was very conducive to meaningful experiences and connecting with people. And I used to always tell folks who haven't experienced the dead, the best thing about besides the music was great, but after the music, you would late night be the concert would be over, be midnight, and you'd head down to Shakedown Street. And Shakedown Street was right, and everything in these dead subcultures take on names from these Grateful Dead songs. So Shakedown Street is that late night scene where you'd be, everybody would be spun, right? And there'd be a lot of energy, and you'd walk along these lines of vendors in dimly lit trails, or sidewalks, and everybody would be hot. It'd be like a Middle Earth kind of like fair festival kind of scene with all sorts of goblin energy and people who knew that their role was to be the trickster, and so you'd have people messing with you, not in a way which to hurt you, but messing with you to provide you with that psychedelic experience, and that you
Jovial
wanted to
spirits.
have. Yeah,
That sounds terrible.
it was if you like weird, it was the perfect thing because it wasn't a scare, it wasn't a terrifying energy. It was a slightly weird bohemian kind of like we're doing at Star Wars where they're in the cantina kind of with creatures and everybody's hawking.
So there was this fair post show.
Yeah, well, it's kind of imagine street people just lined up on both sides of a sidewalk who are selling grilled cheese sandwiches and psychedelics and their artwork and
Extreme busking.
yeah, it's like it's a very creative scene and it's just a very like Middle Earth or even Middle Ages scene of the tradition of you got to make your bread to go to the next show. That was the scene for the Deadheads. They needed to make their sales so they could continue their journey with the dead.
So the spearhead of this was Grateful Dead fans that would try to just make money after the show, but by like entertaining the people that were at the show.
Entertaining, providing food for them, providing chemicals for them, providing services
Chemicals?
for them. Yeah, and it was a very libertine marketplace, and it was a great way to experience and to experience under the influence was just much more substantial. You really you felt good there, It was so that was my coming in point on psychedelics when I was late teens probably.
So do you remember like the first time that you did it? Like were you at a concert?
Honestly, at this point, man, my brain does not retain that memory of first psychedelic experience. Yeah.
Ben, do you remember the first time?
Oh yeah,
what you did?
So we were like, I think I was watching the anime Akira, like the first.
I don't know. I'm not familiar with it, but yeah.
I'm not a huge anime fan either, but my roommate at the time was my buddy, and so he's like, "Hey, we got to watch this." And I remember him laying on the little love seat, and then like halfway through it, I got this feeling like I was being left at summer camp, just. Like kind of like something's changing, like something's gonna be different after this, and then everything got so vivid, all the colors shining on the walls and everything. And I was still smoking cigarettes at the time. I went outside for a smoke, and like I said, everything was just smaller. I'm standing.
Pancake vision?
Not even pancake, just smaller. Like I literally thought I was in a model train village and looking around. I'm like, this is bizarre, man. And it's like snowing outside. And then at one point we ended up sitting on a futon looking out the window over the harbor. And one of my buddies was just like, you know what? I'd watch this. And we're just sitting there laughing, staring at a window. So it was.
You had a point, I'm sure.
Oh, it was great. And we all still know that joke to this day. It's fantastic.
Because I feel like there's some profoundness in the point at what you're explaining, because I think also psilocybin helps you stop and smell the flowers. Like, and I've done that quite literally a few times, where I've been walking by some flowers and like, yo, these are beautiful. I want to smell these.
It allows you to see all that.
You know, and it's that's another thing that I love about psilocybin. It makes like your life more enriched sometimes. And I know people probably listening and watching are like, these fucking hippies need to shut the fuck up. But seriously, true. Like if once you get through the first hurdles of, the first time or the second time and really try to enjoy and accept what's happening.
What I've always told friends too, like they're like, I kind of want to try this. And I'm like, you're going to notice first, your hearing is going to get more astute and the colors are going to get more vivid. That's going to be the first thing you're going to notice. Everything is going to be just a little bit more.
I always say you get 4K vision.
Exactly. It goes full high def like it's supposed to look.
Yeah,
and that's always been my experience too, is I know it's kicking in when I'm like, wow, it's really, this guy is so blue, man. It's so cliche, but it's truth. That's how it goes.
I love that shit.
I like to I mean, even I can't remember my first trip. I can remember my most engaging one, and that I think that was I was getting married, so we're up at my farmhouse and we're having the people that up 20, 25 people up there, and someone had made a big like turkey and they stuck it on the table and. Everybody by this point was seriously into the mushroom honey combination that was being passed around. So everybody's feeling good. The problem was one of my buddies sitting at the table was a very strict vegetarian. and so
did he take mushrooms as well?
Yeah, and unfortunately, and so one of my other friends said, "Hey, Sean, why don't you say some words, before we eat this?" And I see this terrified look on his face as he reflects upon the dead carcass. he's like, please. So he just kind of blurts out, "Please forgive us for what we have done," and just runs out of the room. and that was the end of that. For about four hours, everybody dispersed into the forest and the woods just to reflect upon the turkey. I came back later, hours later, to see him sitting in front of the turkey, transfixed by it, and I realized that someone needed to, remove that turkey from his line of sight just so he could, get back into,
skip it out of his narrative.
Yeah.
Was the barn, in progress at that point? Do you know about his barn?
No, I don't know about
Not to catch you off guard with this one, but the barn is a spectacular place that you should see sometime.
It's been I think the best combination of psychedelics is when it's involved, when there's creative things going on, you can participate in, so we would do things at my place, Open Sky Farm, where one year we had from the top of this, it's like a 3-story barn. We had created this UFO that we had shrouded in sheets, so people down below couldn't see, and the countdown began close to midnight, and we put George Clinton, P-Funk was playing on the radio, and it starts dropping down, and the fog machine kicks in and everything else, and so
cool.
And so the thing lands, and opens up, and there are dancing girls coming out, and a real little trippy experience going on, and meanwhile this was like when drones had just become available, and a buddy of mine had one. So we had set him up behind the barn, and we had him send the drone up around outside the door, and had another buddy come screaming in, "There's a fucking..." Everybody's thinking UFOs right now, and he's like, "There's a real UFO." So everybody's tripping. They go out, they see it. I had the guy hold the drone just enough so that everybody could get a quick glimpse, and then disappear it. Nobody ever talked about it. There was no explanation given. Nobody knew that there was a drone. There had been a drone.
Well, now we threw it under the bus. But.
Yeah, and now everybody comes out with these wonderful experience that, not knowing that it was kind of you're throwing that to people in a creative way so they can kind of experience something interesting and different, and it's good to combine those with psychedelics. It makes the evening much more
wholesome.
Yeah, wholesome or humorous.
Both.
Which
I think
pleasant.
Humorous is in wholesome, I think. Wholesome is, yeah.
They're cohesive, yeah.
So, what do you think the biggest misconception of psilocybin is? That's for either of you.
Yeah, okay. Well, he's clearly in thought. I don't want to derail him.
No, I don't. I don't know. I don't know what the misconception. I think maybe one of the misconceptions that I tend to like to articulate is the psychedelics. And life is profane and profound, right? Folks who claim these in the purely profane framework of viewing these experiences, forget how ridiculous life really is, and that the idea that psychedelics should be thought of as a real, it's the universe having some fun with us, so enjoy it just on that level. It doesn't have to be a mystical experience. It can just be just go out and have some fun.
It can be recreational.
It's okay, Yeah, we made.
Oh no, you're enjoying yourself. How dare you?
We try to do that with cannabis. Certainly one of the ways that the cannabis movement why it was successful was because it at some point it split off the concept of the medicinal, from the recreational, which was all a lie, and everybody knew it. But we couldn't be honest and recognize and validate the experience, not just of giving people who are dying of cancer some medicine, but also the idea that sitting around with a bunch of your friends, picking your guitars and learning how to sing in harmony wasn't as valid as that was, and we're going to do the same thing with psilocybin, because the public it's not palatable to them yet, the idea of just let's celebrate the idea of people sitting around and exploring their consciousness, so we're going to have to frame it in a way that it talks about the healing modality, which is vital and important, but we should be able to have more honest conversations, I think, sometimes about these things.
Well, at least, the whole PTSD anxiety movement thing, that's, I think, unfortunately for all the people suffering from it, but that's been the biggest driver for this is, when they realize that people that are struggling with these afflictions through measured doses and appropriate mediums, somebody basically a trip sitter to help them through that, it does have feasibility, and also addiction, things like that. There's a lot more research that's actually coming out. So now that people are getting rid of that for want of a better term, reefer madness mentality that like burnt out hippies and the deadheads and that whole the lie we've been sold for so many years from the media. Now that that's kind of fading away, I think we do have a chance to make a difference for this, that it is medication, just as cannabis has its place in medication. You know, it's absolutely.
The surprisingly enough, here in Maine, there's a significant underground of people who are leading sessions and are using this.
There's a lot of them, yeah.
Yeah, and one of them, those communities, one built around end of life care, death doulas, who are showing folks how to use psilocybin to cope and to come to grips with those existential questions that
I've thought of this, and I thought that this would be this should be utilized in that moment or that point of someone's life, because I've found myself, especially in the moment of flowing, you're much more at grips with where you stand with things and the nature of things, and things will be okay. And I think sometimes people just need that little affirmation that it will be okay. And I think psilocybin can be used for end of the life treatment, like you're saying.
Yeah, it gives you that. I mean, think about that transition when you're face to face with that. We all will have to at some point if we're not already doing that. And it's a transition unlike we've ever known. But it is simply a transition, and
energy never dissipates.
Doing psilocybin it'll give you that life lesson. It's a transition. It's not a beginning. It's not an end. It's just a transition. It always is. It always will be.
Have you smoked DMT before?
DMT.
Yeah,
I have not had the honor yet, but it comes highly recommended.
I have not.
That's intense.
I got a little more work to do before I get there. I think it's
a transition, especially when you blast off entirely. I thought I died. Essentially, because people call it like, oh, you experience ego death. It's not like, I know what you're referring to. Like, I've dabbled a lot and done heavy doses, and I smoked DMT a bunch before I like blasted off, as I think some people describe it as, and you completely are fucking out of this world. Like, and you are. Words are not appropriate to describe it. It's like baseline, just energy, and like your perception of everything is very different. And my takeaway was like we were just in this universal energy source that is just constantly revolving, and you just essentially hop in and out of it. Whereas and this is my perception, like if they're like you're in the universal energy flow of sorts, and when there's a vessel, for lack of a better term, like a human, even a frog, I don't know, but that some of that universal energy force will like pop out and go in that, and when it's done, it goes back. And that was like one of the most heaviest ones that I perceived. That was like kind of a baseline of what I was trying to fathom. And then there was one time where I like fucking outright died, and there was like all these spinning like images, and like I wasn't even here. I can't explain it. I could have been kidnapped for like 100 years and been dropped back. I just smoked it in my room and I wouldn't know the difference. And I've done, like I said, like I've done a lot of dabbling, and I remember coming to and I was like, no fucking way. Like that's possible. Cause I was dead. You know what I mean? Like dead. Like I felt like I experienced what death is. Well, do you know what I mean?
DMT is the chemical that's released from the hypothalamus or the insert brain organ here. I forget the name of it.
Dimethyltryptamine?
Yeah, but that's what gets released from the brain at the point of death, if I'm not mistaken.
The pineal gland, right?
That's it.
The pineal gland.
So once you expire, that's what happens. So this is like synthesizing death, so it makes sense that...
Yeah. And not every time it's been like that, but there was like 2 or 3 times that was like that. Like I've been in a grid system before, and there was like figures like waving, and I like had my eyes closed and I opened them and it was still there, which was fucking crazy. Because like, people talk about psilocybin and acid, like, oh, there's things that are not there. When you smoke DMT, there are things that are not there. It's fucking wild. And it's the only drug I've ever had that I don't like to have in the house, because I drank a lot, and so naturally I would drink, and then I'd be like, I'll blast off real quick, because it's like 15 minutes, you know what I mean? So like I'm pretty much done with it for a while now. Like last winter I was smoking a ton of it, and it was just, it's a lot. And it also, like, my day to day varied on how I felt about life, because you
It shifts your perception. It has to.
yeah, it's just like a lot, and you're like, wow, you like feel this like pointlessness at one point, and then you're like, it's okay, like I'm gonna make the most of it, but it's a lot. But yeah, DMT is interesting.
Did either of you ever try salvia? Like
Yes.
Dude, that stuff's stupid, first of all, but I tried it in college, and I've seen the fourth dimension. It's blue and it vibrates. I started laughing hysterically, leaned back in the chair, and the walls just started doing this and ripped apart, and everything was blue in there. About 10 minutes later, it came back like, I didn't like that at all. And why do I taste fish? Like, what the hell is this? It was disgusting.
Salvia is not something that I've
Not a fan. That was one and done.
No,
0 stars.
What do you think needs to happen in order for? Well, let me back up, because you played a part, from what Ben mentioned to me on the phone, that you played a part in the legalization of marijuana back in the 2000s, like 07, 08 with marijuana, right? Didn't you play a part?
I was the director of the Maine Marijuana Policy Initiative. So we wrote, and I ran the campaign to set up the distribution system for medicinal marijuana that was on the ballot in 2009. So it created the structure that we see today as far as how people can actually access medical marijuana. So
Thank you and the others for that.
Yeah, I mean, it was a good.
Many others.
It was a cannabis was a long time coming, and it was due to the work of people who came before, me and folks who paid the price in this battle against ignorance for generations. So Maine was ready for it. Maine's got a long history.
Sure. Do you think Maine's ready for psilocybin?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Maine is. I mean, people are always ready for these. It's not people as a concept that get in the way of these things. It's vested interests. Usually economic interests.
For sure.
And or interests having to do with how you define yourself in your role in the society. Are you a gatekeeper? They're the worst. With the left or right, they're the gatekeepers, and they want to, keep tight control on how people are influenced and what information they receive and what paradigms they choose to exist under.
Keep buying those cigarettes and alcohol.
Oh, you have a problem with that?
No, it's just I have a problem with the way that they structure it. That like, okay, this one's fine, but not that one.
Agreed. What do you think the biggest catalyst was to legalizing marijuana back when that happened?
The biggest catalyst at that point, I mean, the argument was just about getting patients their medicine. And people there was enough of groundwork around that to make it a pretty accessible argument for folks. It also, we kept telling folks, economics are an important part of a community's health, and we said that right now, back in the day, that the economic of this are either going to go in a way which are going to benefit a lot of people, or going to benefit a select group of people. And in Maine, the law that we got passed was one that created a system of small mom and pop operations that to this day, 13 years later, are sustaining communities, sustaining the economics of the communities. And those folks have been able to fight against big money trying to come in and dominate, a scene that should be based around full access for everybody, and that means economics that work for everybody, and that means the money flows. On a horizontal level, not on a vertical level.
Like to big corporations, you're saying?
I mean, Maine, prides itself on its independence and its self-reliance, and cannabis is become now something that anybody can now have at their for their use, and they can develop it and grow it themselves. And the same thing we hope will happen with psilocybin, and hopefully a lot of the ignorance that came forward and arguments against cannabis that have turned out to be, as we all knew it was, to put it nicely, a crock of shit. And
that was pretty nice of you.
Yeah. So I think Maine has seen people. Mainers has seen people lie to them before about cannabis, and hopefully they'll be above that this time, and hopefully those gatekeepers who were so adamant about keeping this out of the hands of the community. Now see that they were just wrong. Get out of the way. If you can't evolve into something better than what we have in place, get out of the way.
I agree. I also think that with most things, it's like if it's not hurting nobody, like just let it be. And if it's something that you don't align with, just don't align with it. Just because
Congratulations, you have free thought.
I mean, I even think with like cocaine, for instance. Like, granted, you have to think about the younger generation and how that could be detrimental to them. But like, just let it be. Like, just let it go. Like, I'm not gonna go become a cokehead because I don't want to do that. You know what I mean? I'm not. This isn't a great parallel with psilocybin, but you know what I'm saying. I'm just saying, like, just let people do what they want. You know what I mean? I think that we've found as evidence over many centuries that when people are constricted, they end up just more negative things happen out of that than if you just let people do what they will, because they will try it and they won't like it, like, that was a little much, instead of like the forbidden fruit mentality of like, oh, I gotta have it, and then people are doing it for the wrong reasons almost.
So we saw with, I mean, as how this relates to the festival, one of the panel discussions we're having is on the concept of body autonomy, and a lot of people have been talking about that over the last couple of years as we experience COVID. And from all sides of the political equation, they're trying to figure out essentially what you have a right to claim as your own versus the public good. It's, and it's been going, that discussion's been going on for hundreds, thousands of years. Trying to figure out in a community, what can you claim as your own and what do you have to give over to the common good? And we argue about that endlessly. And so at the festival, we're going to have a panel discussion around that concept of body autonomy, talking about decriminalization of psychedelics, abortion, a person's right to choose the destiny of their own body or what's in their body, sex workers, the idea that people have the right to make a living utilizing their body in any way, the shape, the form that they imagine. Kind of using all these as kind of jumping off points to that concept of body autonomy, trying to figure out what we should claim as our own versus what we should or should not hand over to the common good. It's an ongoing question, and it really defines us and defines where we come down on issues like COVID. Like, what is our responsibility? I mean, something is happening. Is the reaction going to make it better for more people, or is the reaction going to be the wrong answer to a problem that may or may not exist? Maybe it's not a problem. Maybe it's a paradigm on how we look at that is what is the issue.
That's what I'm trying. Like, that's what I think and how I feel about stuff. It's like even abortion. It's like, I particularly don't agree with abortion, but like, do what you will. Like, it's not my right or my place to. If you want to do that, like, so be it. Like, I got my own shit to worry about. I don't got time to worry about if you want to kill whatever's inside you. Like, I don't care. Like, I don't want to say I don't care, but like, at the end of the day, like, I just don't see like, people are going to do what they're going to do. Let them live. Like, okay.
It literally doesn't impact me. Like, yeah, and there's so many different situations with that one in particular. Like, what's the circumstance? Is it going to be healthy? Was it an attack that caused this? Like, so many pieces to it. Like, if that's something that needs to happen for you for the greater good of what you need to be dealing with in your life, please make the choice.
It's like abuse. It's like with like booze. Booze is available, people abuse it. It's like abortion should be available, I suppose, but people will abuse it. And it's like, just let it. Okay, people are going to abuse it. People abuse everything.
Yeah, then I won't sleep with that chick.
Well, or maybe you will because she'll abort. It'll be easy.
A community does have to. The thing is, you can't. I mean, a community does have to ask that question, though. There is a. I mean, for me at least, there is a belief that there's a common good that, and a common framework that people would experience the most substantial lives if there was people were considering the common good, the overall good. Not just life isn't just about your own individual expression. It's not just about your own choices. Everything you do spins off and dominoes something else. It is a question we have to address, and otherwise we find ourselves, and we address it the wrong way, and when we're not able to have those conversations, like in COVID, we end up, the fundamentalists take over, and from both sides, and fundamentalists are the demon that we need to battle, because they have decided upon a truth already, and there's nothing that's going to move them from that truth, and that's a terrifying thing in history. If you look at it from everything from across the political spectrum, from like people like Adolf Hitler to people like Pol Pot to the Red Guard in China, people who there's all these monstrosities that exist where the common good is pushed forward as the solution. And in retrospect, historical retrospect, you see what a mistake that was.
Yeah, it was not for the common good.
Yeah.
It was for like some other agenda.
For the good of 4 people. Yeah.
The concept was good. The execution was execution, and so to speak. So I think we do have to have that conversation. And the Fungi Fest is something that I hope people who are listening out there who want to tap into these ideas and have these conversations and want to explore psychedelics and the possibilities, not just for your mind, but mushrooms and mycelium for technology. For culinary purposes, for artistic, enhancement.
Even fighting cancer, turkey tail mushrooms, reishi, chaga, all those are showing.
My mom, she had cancer and she's big into, I think, chaga. And there's another mushroom that she makes all the time now. Chaga,
turkey tail, and even lion's mane is showing a lot of things for people with early onset Alzheimer's. It's a cognitive booster. There's so many things about it that are just phenomenal.
And there's a minuscule amount of mushrooms that have been identified and kind of put through the process, in terms of how many different strains of mushrooms
it's 1/32 of what's known thus far, or something crazy.
So you can imagine the potential that lies out there when more people find out that mushrooms are something that we need to know about. There are people doing work around carbon sequestration, the ability to deal with climate change by harvesting and creating a whole network of mushrooms that can take that carbon and put it back into the soil in a way which it actually it stays in balance. So there's all these different realms that people are looking into, and these conversations and this technology is going to be something that I think the world is going to just continue to want to know more and more about.
Yeah, and I think the problem, and it kind of ties into the legalization and decriminalization of things, is big farm and how that can affect the research of a lot of these mushrooms. Big Pharma doesn't want to look up and find and do the research on the mushrooms and what they can do when it can affect their bottom line on some of the things that they're selling. And I think that has been a disservice to humanity in across the board with cancer and all sorts of different diseases and what have you. There's a lot of shit out here that could be utilized for the better good, if you will, and is not because of big corporations and such that are just making money. And I think that does inhibit the weed legalization and same with psilocybin and stuff.
Anything they can't synthesize and then monetize, they're going to discourage. And they can't patent life forms as well unless they create new ones, which they are doing. In order to circumvent that. Ownership of the DNA is a big thing right in front of us that's going to define our future. Who owns the right to life itself? We got some serious battle.
Mother Nature owns the mycelium, not them.
Yeah, and these pharmaceutical companies are the biggest, the world's biggest cartels, and we can't see them as what they really are. In retrospect, we will someday realize that these are drug cartels. These people need to be in prison. They need to be removed from our community. They are not people whose vision, framework for life, and is compatible with us being in balance in this world. And we need to stop sugarcoating it and put those people behind bars where they belong, and put that system of capitalism that puts people's health, in the crosshairs of people trying to make exorbitant amounts of money. That's got to end too.
Yeah, agreed. So,
did you guys ever see Michael Moore's Sicko back when that came out?
Sicko.
It's about the healthcare industry and everything. I was in high school, I think, or just out of high school when it came out.
Does he go to Canada?
I think so. He goes to all the big pharma places, so I believe part of it was in Canada because he was juxtaposing the American healthcare versus Canadian healthcare. But there's a line in there where he's showing footage of a recording from the Oval Office when they were putting the healthcare system into place. And he goes, you know what, that sounds great. There's no money in keeping people healthy. And I've never forgotten that line because it is starting to look at healthcare as a business, not to the good of the order. And it's atrocious. It's disgusting. It's so appalling to me when there's we could walk in the woods right now and find so much medication that can do so many wonderful things for all of us. And yet they're like, no, take the synthetic version. You're going to lose all your hair, but enjoy this. It's
I think
disgusting.
a baseline too is without even discovering all these different type of mushrooms for medicinal use, like even just psilocybin with mental health. Like I think I don't know its spectrum and how well it can help somebody, but like I can ensure you that it would help some people that are probably taking some Xanax or like benzos of sorts and whatever.
Uppers, downers, sideways, yeah.
Yeah, like I would almost, yeah, I could bet a lot of money. It would help some, for sure. Some not, but that's okay. Like then it's maybe
Xanax that just makes zombies, man. That's nothing good comes to Xanax. I mean, you sleep and you don't have anxiety, but you don't have a choice. That's all you can do. Like,
no bueno. What's the most challenging hurdle for trying to legalize psilocybin? Like,
yeah, it's the gate. I think what I mentioned before, the gatekeepers, people who aren't comfortable with something that is not in their their worldview.
Who in this case? Who is it?
In Maine, it tends to be the medical establishment is one. Some of the hierarchy in law enforcement, because a lot of their money and their economics is related to how much they can claim that there are these issues that they need to address. So I think a lot of that, certainly in the past, the media, the mainstream media has always been a huge part of the gatekeepers. It's always about, slow it down. Here are our fears. Here are our concerns.
Just say no.
We've been doing that math for a long time. We don't need to spend any more time trying to, soothe your fears. We know the reality of this. Get out of the way. So, but yeah, I think that's those are the folks I think we're going to come face to face with, because I think our reaction and our response to our legislation and support is coming from everybody across the political spectrum. So there's no left-right, divide on this issue. It's really the gatekeepers, folks.
Do you have a tactic to attack with trying to get that to the next level? Because are you trying to get a bill made?
Right. We have legislation that will be in front of the Maine legislature any day or any week now.
Oh, for real? And when would they have to address that, this fall?
They would, it would go in front of the session, and they would put it into a subcommittee, and the subcommittee would make its recommendation, and that would go out to the full legislature for a vote.
So it has to go through a subcommittee first?
Every piece of legislation goes when you submit it. There's a whole process. When you submit it, it gets directed towards a particular subcommittee.
In this case, who is it?
And then what?
In this case, who is it?
Oh, well, it'll depend. It could be Health and Human Services.
Can they just shoot it down and be like, nope? Like how? What is there some vetting of it?
Yeah, they have to have public hearings. So once it gets scheduled in the subcommittee, they'll put notice out about the public hearings, and we'll be putting that out to everyone to get them to come there and testify and to contact.
Should I go there in costume? In full character? Should I be there as proper psilocybin?
I don't think so.
Does that help, or does it make it worse?
I don't think it's for the greater good.
It depends on who you ask. People like to do, even progressives, unfortunately, tend to like to do politics in a way which is very familiar. And they tend to run scared from the ideas of engaging in a cultural dialogue or in humor, to change. I'm not of that philosophy, so I think everybody should come out in whatever shape or form, be articulate, express yourself, contact your legislators who are local.
Don't argues with the British accent. I mean, come on now.
And realize that that you're on the right side of history by doing this, and it's quite doable. And if they don't give us what we think is reasonable, then we will come out of this Maine Fungi Fest with enough of a community and support system to take it through the ballot initiative, where we can circumvent the legislature and go directly to a vote of the people.
How does that happen?
You get a lot of signatures.
How many signatures do you need?
I think it's 10% of the registered voters at a particular time during the year. So you're roughly somewhere in the vicinity of 75 to 95,000 signatures you'd have to get. So it could be daunting, but
I think you would be surprised. I bet you could get people.
I was going to say, anybody listening out there that wants to sign the petition, please contact us.
Again, we did that for cannabis. That's how we got our legislation passed. The legislature wouldn't support our work. We tried to go to them direct first because it's a less expensive route and a less time-consuming route. They walked away from their responsibility, which is to honor what the people in the state of Maine wanted, and they wanted their cannabis. And this time around, they're given the opportunity to address it. And if they don't, then we go around them. And that's just the way, think these things happen A lot of times, legislature is scared to touch anything that's particularly they consider controversial, but it isn't controversial. Again, outside of the gatekeepers, everybody in the state would say, let people choose their health care. Let them make the decision on how they want to heal, stay out of their way, and let them have full access. And that's the argument we're going to make.
I like it. I love it, actually. What do you hope people get the most out of something like Fungi? You keep saying Fungi Fest. It's fungi, not like, am I saying?
Some people go fungi, some people say fungi. You'd be fungi.
Please
I
just don't
say
say
fungi.
You know?
Like, am I stupid for that?
No, it's
I switched too, man.
You switched?
Yeah.
yeah.
It's like Pirates of the Caribbean, but I'll go to the Caribbean. Like it changes depending on
word.
context.
You know, it's all, yeah. But I think that what we want people to get out of it is to get networked and to get information so that they can figure out how to personally utilize, mushrooms, for the benefit of their lives, but also how to be part of a movement around the concepts of plant-based healing and evolving consciousness. Mushrooms are a jumping off point for a lot of bigger discussions. And I think, I think that's what people should come. I think they'll get inspired. I think they'll get informed. I think they'll meet people who will be part of their lives for a long time to come. And they'll have a lot of fun at the event as well.
At the Fungi Fest, you'll have fun?
Fuck
Fuck yeah, let's go.
And I'll be available for selfies.
Hey, PsilocyBen.
Yes, sir.
That's clever. That's clever. What do you think the trippiest film you've ever seen is?
I mean, Brazil's up there, as prefaced earlier, but even as far as realistic trippiest, I gotta lean towards Punch Drunk Love. That one's clearly an acid movie. Like the concept, the emotional and mental struggle that Barry's going through in that entire movie, and then the simple color waves and the music and the little harmonium organ that he has, the whole thing is kind of just based in this psychedelic avenue, I think. But mostly just with the color patterns through it. I mean, that's the obvious piece to it, but it's very clearly a psychological deep depth of a movie, more than just this weird dude in a blue suit that falls in love with a chick. And
I'm not familiar with the film.
oh, dude, it's so good. It's Adam Sandler and
For real?
and Emma something. I can't remember her name, but
Not Emma Watson.
no, much older. But it's
Okay.
I believe her first name's Emma. But came out many years ago. But basically, this dude, he's got anger issues and emotional turmoil and everything, and he finally falls in love with this woman, and they're going through this struggle together of mental health, and he finds all these pudding cups that he can get extra points to turn into Snackwell to then get a free round-trip flight to Hawaii. And so she has to go to Hawaii for work, so he's like, oh, I'll come see you, and he just buys a bunch of pudding and then flies down there, and they fall in love. It's fucking amazing. But
Punch Drunk
Love, Adam Sandler. It's under the radar.
Is it a rom-com?
Sort of.
You think that's the trippiest film?
You'll see what I mean when you watch it, because if you really dive into it, it's kind of like Fight Club's more than just the face value of fighting. It's the psychological aspect. You'll see.
Okay, you got some trippy shit? What?
If I was gonna really want to enjoy a psychological experience under the influence of psychedelics, I'd probably just go classic and Apocalypse Now,
Apocalypse Now, okay.
yeah, and just that whole journey up the river, to find the madness.
I haven't seen that either.
It's all based on
Stop. You're done.
The Heart of Darkness, the Joseph Conrad book, and so that's how they kind of replicate that same story, but they place it in the Vietnam War with a crazy colonel who has decided that he is the representation of God on earth, and he's going to help facilitate this war, and it's fascinating, but it's a dark psychological experience. And
have you ever seen a movie while flowing on mushrooms?
Yeah. I'm sure I have, but man, I smoked a lot of weed in my life, so you're asking me
No, that's fair.
that it may not be.
There's a lot of drugs to go, man.
Have either of you seen Pan's Labyrinth?
Not in a long time, but yeah, that
That's
one's
a trippy movie.
that one's out there.
It's one of the most violent scenes I've ever
That's
seen in it.
the hand eyes and everything, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Where is it? Right here.
Okay, yeah, I could picture it immediately. Yeah, it's been a long time since I've seen that one too, but
Yeah, it literally has the most violent scene I've ever seen in it. Do you remember the bottle scene where the Nazi is smashing the dude's face?
Oh yeah,
Bro, it's the most gnarliest violent scene I've ever seen. Have you not seen this?
I have seen that. I'm pretty sure.
Do you know the
Is that
scene?
Guillermo del Toro?
Yeah.
weird. It's like I blocked that out because it was so violent or something.
It's
so weird.
violent, and it's. I don't mind blood and gore, but that scene has you want to look off screen because you're like, oh my god, it's so brutal.
I think that's the only one that trumps History of the World Part X. Like, curb stomp. Like,
This dude is smashing this guy's face with a bottle, like, and it shows this dude's face getting caved in with a bottle. It's really brutal. They did the practical effects or special effects they've done that. It's fucking incredible.
well, that's why I still love House of a Thousand Corpses, Devil's Rejects. Those Rob
I haven't
Zombie's
seen that in
classics.
so long.
Dude, but I mean, the production value of that first one, it's literally just Texas Chainsaw, but it's the aesthetic of it because it's Rob Zombie. Love it.
If I remember correctly, Devil's Rejects was production level was much higher than
Absolutely. And it's a better storyline. Like,
Yeah.
House of a Thousand kind of had that campy factor to it. Devil's
Super
Rejects
camp,
is
yeah.
a fantastic movie.
Yeah, like I remember thinking like, oh, they did a decent job with this. Where I think I shut off House of a Thousand Corpses, but it was before I like understood campy when it had come out. I was like,
Well, and I usually check out anytime I rewatch it when they're going down to Dr. Satan's lair and the run rabbit. That's when I give up on the movie.
I don't know the reference, but
Yeah, because nobody watches it past that. Like, Dr. Satan's this crazy looking thing that lives underground, but it's just like, I don't care anymore. Go back to Rainn Wilson. That was better.
okay, fair.
I've done the Fantasia. I've watched
Oh,
Fantasia.
I just
under
watched
the
that. It's just
influence.
gas, absolute gas. You've seen that?
Yeah.
Dude, incredible, right?
Yeah, especially when it came out in terms of it was
It was what, the late 30s or something?
Is
30s
it-
or 40s?
late-
50s, late 40s, I think maybe.
Yeah, I have it, but I literally just watched it. It's at someone else's house. I just watched it, and I bought it years ago, like 2 years ago, and because for the reason to flow and watch it, and I've put it in a couple months ago, and I was so pleasantly pleased with
It's so
how
good.
well it was put together. The segues with the composer and the shadow of Mickey, and how there's this plot going on in these little mini stories. It's really
those
awesome.
folks. One of the missing stories about this country is how much our culture and our economics and our politics has been influenced by people who direct connections to psychedelia. Because, for instance, I mean, you can start with, I mean, certainly in our contemporary culture, you can start with the emergence of the hippies and the acid tests, and Ken Kesey getting free LSD as a grad student out in the West Coast, who was also getting that was just not just the hippies who created this whole psychedelic subculture, but the first generation of tech workers were out there, and the scientists. They are all. If you dive into their cultures, you are going to see an amazing correlation between.
Well, Steve Jobs,
Those guys, they would regularly do that because they knew that whatever paradigm they were stuck in to develop new technologies, all they had to literally do was to experience a psychedelic experience, and they would figure out where to go. And so all that technology that we see in front of us today, this connection of a global consciousness, this is coming as a result of people who were tripping or were flowing.
Flowing.
Yeah.
They were flowing. They were flying.
I'm like, and so when anybody questions the validity of this, it's like if you are familiar with how your culture evolved and how we live we're swimming in all this right now because of people who use psychedelics to get a vision beyond what was
Totally
the here and now.
I think you talk about technology advancement. I also think with music and movies, like some of these writers, I find myself, I write music and writing. I've wrote some pretty dope shit when I was flying. Like,
Dude, that one you played earlier was awesome. I
on
loved it.
acid?
Yeah, I love it.
I was tripping on that one. But yeah, no, like you get in this different mind state, and I think it does this like elevate creativity, and it kind of gets rid of some of the boundaries that you're used to dealing with, and I think that's what it takes to evolve and elevate civilizations or just people and their evolution. But do you guys like for another drug question, MDMA? Like, because these are I'm talking about the drugs that the good ones. Like, do you have any experience with ecstasy?
I've enjoyed it. Yeah, I think as a intimacy experience, it very much allows you to be intimate emotionally with people.
I think psilocybin does too for me. I don't know if it does for everybody, but I think if you let it in certain situations, I've had some of my most intimate moments on psilocybin.
Yeah,
Can confirm.
Sexually and non-sexually.
yeah. I've gotten my best back rubs on MDMA.
Oh, for sure. That's facts. That's facts. So thumbs up on ecstasy.
I did it once many, many years ago, and at the exact moment I enjoyed it, but then everything else about it I hated. It's like flying, like going through the airport, going through security, losing your bag. But like when I'm actually flying and getting somewhere quickly, it's great. But like the rest of that experience is awful.
Oh, for real?
I couldn't sleep for a day and a half. I couldn't control my body temperature. I was sweating. I was cold. Like I
You
just.
probably had meth. A lot of people do meth. I mean, I've done my share of meth, I think.
Well, they prescribed me Adderall in high school, and I don't like that either.
I like me some Addies. They're good.
Dude, they have me on 60 milligrams a day. That's too much Adderall.
That is too much.
The doctor was literally like, well, you're kind of fat. There's a new drug for ADD. So we'll put you on 60 milligrams. Good luck. And I was like, okay.
You should have just peddled them.
They should. You should. You are.
It's only a felony.
They should re-examine you now and see what the effects of what happened. And
All my teeth in the back of my head are breaking is what the effect is. Like, all these ones back here got cracks in them, man.
God damn. Favorite films? Like, what's your favorite film of all time?
So I doubt you know this one, but one of my top movies of all time is Harold and Maude.
I don't know these films. Like,
You must know.
I know
Harold and
Apocalypse
Maude.
Now. I've heard of that.
classic, yeah.
Harold and Maude is this crazy underground movie.
Classic tale of a 16-year-old boy falling in love with an 80-year-old woman.
Yep, and he's obsessed with
for real?
death. He fakes his own death the whole time just to fuck with his mom. He buys this old ass Cadillac hearse, and the entire soundtrack is Cat Stevens music. It is a fucking excellent movie. It is the darkest humor. Like, it is core dark humor at its apex.
I'm gonna have to check some of these out.
Dude, it's awesome.
Johnny, what you got?
I'll throw out They Live. It's a John Carpenter movie from the 80s, and it's about this planet where these aliens are coming, but you can't tell who the aliens are, right? They're able to morph. The only way you can is if you get these glasses.
I've heard of this film.
Right? And these glasses are for this underground group. And there's this one scene where one of these guys has access to these glasses, and he can look around and he can see who these are, and he can see the billboards that to the normal eye say, is a beautiful woman. What's really being communicated is, consume and die. So these glasses allow you to see the truth. Oh shit! Right?
Oh, cool.
And so there's this scene where this guy's trying to get his friend to look at to put these glasses on, and it's an extended fight scene that goes on way beyond where it should, and it replicates and that conversation you have with people when you want to show them something, to just maybe tilt them to change the colors, and they know what lies at the other side is something that they just don't want to deal with, and they will resist, even though they know there is something that they should be paying attention to. They just don't want to. Yeah. That's the struggle that, as for me, like as an organizer and trying to get people to address these issues, that movie always stays with me about that struggle.
Because you're always like, take the glasses.
And they were like, no, life is easier when I don't take the glasses.
Yeah. I've encountered that in life where I've tried to like just actually be non-biased in a situation, and people will be like, no, I'm not being biased. And I'm like, yes, you are. I'm like, you need to like take yourself out of this and just look at this in a different light, because you say you're seeing this, but you need to put these glasses on because you're not fucking seeing this correctly. Yeah. So
what's your favorite movie then?
It's probably Half-Blood Prince or Alice Through the Looking Glass or Alice Wonderland. It's tough to like give the top one, but
I mean, I got a top 5, but Harold and Maude's always up there.
Yeah, Tron Legacy's in the top 5, Half-Blood Prince, the Alice films. Those are probably my favorite films. My favorite TV show is Modern Family. I don't know if you've seen that show.
That's a good one.
I love that show.
Big fan.
Big fan? Yeah. We got all the seasons.
I was noticing that, yeah. I'm not surprised.
I'm actually rewatching them. I've seen every season probably like 3 or 4 times, but I'm going through it again right now. And then, when you haven't seen something in a while and it's like you don't remember watching that.
There's like big chunks that are, yeah.
Yeah, like I'll vaguely remember premises of the episode, but it's basically like kind of watching through for the first time, kind of, because it's been like 3 or 4 years since I've watched Good show, but love that show. What's your favorite shows?
That 70s show was always a good one too. Like,
Did you see they started that 90s
that
show?
90s show, and it's not perfect, but they did a damn good job. They got most of the cast to return. They got a bunch of the original writers. They did it justice. Like
They did. I wonder, because I wasn't a fan of the 70s show, but
it's true to form through the whole thing. It's
Okay.
a logical progression, and the right amount of time elapsed before they revisited the idea.
Oh, cool. Because you know how they butcher that shit sometimes when they.
Well, they tried to
revisit
make that 80s show. Well, that 70s show was still out. It had like 3 episodes, and they pulled it immediately. It was garbage.
I think I feel like I remember.
Garbage.
Johnny, what favorite TV show?
I think if the one that makes me laugh the most, I think is The Office. I've been through that like 12 times for every
It's a good
episode.
show. I've only done a 1 through once. Like I would watch again, but now it's on fucking Peacock, and it's like I don't have Peacock. Like what the
Yeah,
fuck?
I got to watch through everything else, then I'll buy that one.
But when I did watch through The Office, I enjoyed it thoroughly. Like, because it's a lot of fucking seasons.
Yeah.
And I like sat and watched all of them like one winter, a few winters back. It's a damn good show. Yeah. Modern Family's similar because they do the interviews like they do in The Office. You know, like
It's a very similar style.
Same format.
Yeah. It makes me. I can't get enough of Michael Scott.
Yeah.
Well, and Community's like that too. Which that was. You guys ever watch Community?
I've seen it a little bit. Yeah.
Community? No.
That one. Childish Gambino's in it. And
Okay.
dude, he's hilarious. Like
He's a good artist.
he's a surprisingly good actor too.
You did. You seen him in Atlanta?
Yeah, he wrote that too.
Yeah,
Atlanta. Yeah, he's fantastic. That show is
everything he does is gold.
a piece of art, man. It's surreal. It's
People keep talking about watching. It's just, as you both probably know, there's so much fucking shit out here to watch.
Yeah.
It's
And it's right at your fingertips now. You don't have to go to Bull Moose for it.
You'll appreciate Atlanta. It's got 3 seasons, and and Donald Glover and his brother, I think co-write on it along with a group of others, and it's a beautiful piece of art.
I believe it because one of my favorite songs of all time is from Childish Gambino, which is Donald Glover. Yeah. Feels Like Summer.
Yep, that's a good one.
Summertime Magic is also gas, but Feels Like Summer is the shit. I flow and bump that a lot.
3005 is always a go-to for like, okay, I need something to like start my day off right.
I need to check out that whole album because I haven't.
Dude,
he's really dope. I really respect him as an artist, and he's really talented. So
and he had the guts to put out that "This Is America" song. Like
that shit was gas too. Yeah,
That's
big
huge.
ups to him. He's dope. Guilty pleasure film. Mine's more.
I thought you meant in life. I was like, I don't know if I want to say this out loud.
I was gonna say twins.
Yo, word. No, I was the guilty pleasure film. Mine's to start off. My guilty pleasure film was Mortal Kombat.
All right.
I don't know the 1995 giant.
The original. Okay.
Yeah, that's just like I love that movie.
I mean, I'm an open book anyway, so I don't know if any of them fall under a guilty pleasure kind of thing. And I did watch.
Well, it's almost like it's bad, but you're like, I love it. I don't care how bad it is, type shit.
Oh, dude, there's one of them. So, like, this is another one I know you guys haven't heard of, but it's Danny Deckchair. It's this stupid Australian romantic comedy about the dude that tied balloons to his chair and flew up into the sky. And like,
I haven't seen
so
this.
they expand the story. So he ends up further in Australia, and he ends up in some chick's backyard, and he falls in love as he's falling out of love with his wife.
Word.
Like, dude, it's so goofy and ridiculous. The whole time it's Australian accents, and it's camp at its finest. But that's one, like, I bought it on Amazon just so I could like, oh, it's like mac and cheese. I'm gonna go to sleep. Just comfort.
Oh, you like? Oh, word. Okay.
Like it's fucking stupid. Like I've tried.
It sounds stupid.
I tried to get one of my ex-girlfriends to watch it, and she's like, "The fuck is this?" Yeah. I'm like, "Well, just turn it off then." Okay.
So I don't know. Mortal Kombat the same way. Like if I was to put that in, it was just almost would be awkward to watch with like a group of people. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, this is just a movie for me, I guess.
Yeah, I'll quietly close the blinds, watch this by myself.
Watch it in private.
Yeah. But so what's yours then?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I can recommend.
I'm expecting you to say
like,
Debbie Does Dallas.
You know, I steer clear of anything that's yeah,
Frivolous.
Frivolous. No, I don't. How much Shakes? Have you guys ever seen Shakes the Clown?
No.
It's got the best like clown versus mime fight scene of all time. It's
Wow.
Shakes is it's Bobcat Goldthwait.
Okay, I was like, this sounds familiar.
And he's
Is Zach Galifianakis in this?
He's no, I don't think no, but Zach's great too, man. I could watch his shit all day. Zach Galifianakis, yeah.
He's funny.
But Shakes the Clown, yeah, he's an alcoholic clown.
Naturally.
Bobcat Goldthwait, and they have this great scene where they're clowns and the mimes hate each other, and the clowns and then the mimes and the clowns are driving down in a clown car, down the roadway, and they see the mimes, and the mimes are there, and they're doing their miming thing, and the clowns have had enough. They pull up, and they fucking 25 clowns get out of that little tiny clown car and start doing battle with the mimes.
The clowns win, right?
It's one of the great fight scenes. I don't want to give it away. I don't want to be a spoiler. You have to watch it.
Is it the killer clowns from outer space that kick his ass?
Shakes the clown, man.
I'm going to check that out.
You won't be disappointed.
Word. What's the largest dose of psilocybin that either of you have taken? Out of curiosity.
I think it was like a quarter. Like usually I'd say like my big dose is an eighth if I'm going to do it. So I think the biggest I've taken was a quarter, and that was over like a day. It wasn't just like.
Oh, you eat them throughout?
Yeah, just munching them like Cheez-Its, man. Like,
I see. I don't think that works. Like in my opinion, if you're gonna macrodose, you have to do it all off rip. You can't 2 hours later be like, I'm gonna take more. It might lengthen the.
Well, and that's it, because I think if I remember correctly, I took the eighth first, like half of it, and then I kept snacking on them, like as the day went on. But we also had shit to do. We were like building a fire. We had to cut down a tree. Like there was stuff going on.
Shit to do. Build a fire and cut a tree down. Goddamn.
We live in Maine.
You cut trees down regularly?
Well, no, this tree had to come down. I was helping a friend out. Yeah, there was a reason for this experience. It wasn't just like, oh, let's just go cut down a tree.
And then you decided that you wanted to eat some mushrooms and cut down trees?
Well, when the mushrooms were presented after the discussion of what we had to do to this tree was brought forward. So
you're like, this is a good idea.
I was like, all right. That's the first time I tried axe throwing, too.
Just as a public service announcement out there, chainsaws and psychedelics don't mix. So.
Yeah, and this was more than 7. This was more than 7 years ago, so it's, statute of limitations.
No, you're good. Have you taken some godly doses?
Yeah, nah, it's not. I'm sure, not knowingly. Let's put it that way. I think I've done LSD for like 3 days in a row. I think that was probably my biggest stretch, and yeah, it just kind of like end up in this mid ground. It wasn't interesting. Again, I think the psychedelics. If there's no insights, if there's no real like exploration going, I'm not sure it's something that you should be spending too much time putting your psyche through.
Yeah, I find that acid always is something that I want to have stop. Like I don't like how it's inconsistent. It seems. And I've got deadhead acid. Like the acid that I get is good. It's from like some hippies from wherever, and sometimes I'm just done, and that's what I don't like about acid. It's like you'll be 16 hours in, you're like, Jesus Christ, like, I need to go to bed. Like, I'm done with this. Where like mushrooms is like heavy dose, 8-9 hours tops, and then it's sleepy time. Like have some food, and then go to bed, which I like, but that's my. Acid just can be a little much sometimes.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like, I don't. Same thing. It's just I want to get off this ride. I'm done with it. I'm over it. Like, please bring me back.
Yeah. Have you ever seen any psilocybin or any films that represent psilocybin well, or like any films that are regarding psilocybin?
Because I haven't really not in a literal sense, but there's but I think there are ones that kind of dive into the possibility of mycelium and what it means like as a
documentary.
No, not literally. I mean, there's Fantastic Fungi, which is a great film about that really I think has introduced a lot of people to this world, and that's a documentary about. Yeah,
did it just come out recently?
It's on Netflix. Yeah,
I think it's
in the last couple of years.
I think I noticed it naturally.
And there's also How to Change Your Brain, which talks about psilocybin specifically, as well as acid. It goes through all the different drugs, how they're manufactured, like any psychoactive stuff.
Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, mushrooms are less interesting to me than the mycelium. The idea that there are these interconnected, massive organisms, underneath the ground.
Tell people what mycelium is for the people that don't know what it is.
It's the root structure. It's the thing that spreads out. It's not the fruit. It's everything.
It's below the surface, right? It's everything that connects to it. But
that's some people don't know what
mycelium is.
Yeah,
Which did you show the
Oh yeah, should we?
Yeah, we could talk about the Fungi Fest now, like more so like. Oh, I got the poster.
That's the poster. Yeah.
Very mycelium.
I'll put that at the
oriented.
end of the video too.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
on YouTube.
This is just to give full credit too. This is an artist by the name of Martin Bridge. Who does some fantastic stuff, and he's allowed us to utilize. We were trying to figure out, how to represent the event image wise, and I couldn't. It wasn't coming to me, and I got connected to his art, and I saw this one, which is called One Giant Consciousness. And I said that represents what the event, the energy of the event.
I like it because it's not gaudy. It's not like the shirt I'm wearing. I think that's a misrepresentation. And this motherfucker over here. It's just a little extra, because you don't want to like. I'm not saying there is Alice shit that is going to occur there, but I like how it is a modest, like.
Yeah, we want to. I want to make sure everybody feels comfortable. This is nobody's event; it's everybody's event.
Right.
People, if you feel a connection to all things fungi, to plant-based healing, to evolving consciousness, these are the people who want to have those discussions as well. This is the culture that you want to be swimming in. So I think we want to make sure everybody feels like it's it's not going to be this or that. It's going to be all of the above.
This or that.
Yeah, this.
There's quite a juxtaposition here. Yeah.
So do you want to? I'm pretty sure I'm going to be there. So I hope everybody else joins you and us there. I'm excited for the event. And what do you want to say anything or plug the show right now or the festival rather?
Yeah, well, I'd like to ask the people head to the website mainefungifest.org and they can check out all the details. You'll see, keynote speakers talking about why mushrooms matter, talking about plant-based healing, evolving consciousness. You're going to see panel discussions on body autonomy, on veterans talking about coming back through the use of psilocybin, on decriminalization, where do we go from here, on art and psychedelics, on Muggle magic and how that relates.
Muggle magic?
Oh, yeah. We got one.
Let's go.
Yeah. You're hooked. You're going to be there now for the whole thing, right?
There's going to be workshops on and demonstrations on mushroom dyeing, on making tinctures, on growing your own in a monotub. They're going to be conversations, mind conversations for things around like how to escape the robot mind, how to incorporate psychedelics in parenting, all these things. There's going to be
Very
live
cool.
art, people making live art. There's going to be
Live performances too, right?
There's going to be
Saturday night.
sound baths available, a whole room set aside so you can get a 15-minute sound bath. If you've ever experienced that, it's a very interested engagement with your senses. There's going to be an outside art in the park with all these conscious creation stations and neti loops and a big gigantic mushroom sculpture that people will be able to build, a community mural, instrument garden. There's going to be a vendor fair called Mushroom Mania Market, which is about 100 vendors who have created their own stuff around mushrooms, plant-based healing, evolving consciousness. There's going to be a lot to take in, shared meals, and then special events. Yeah, there's going to be a Alice in Wonderland costume ball and burlesque show on Saturday night. There's going to be a psychedelic sermon on Sunday morning. It's going to be definitely a good use of, I think, anybody's time. I think they're going to come out of it motivated and inspired.
It sounds it.
And we got a mascot running around the whole time.
And hopefully PsilocyBen will make it there, although it's questionable.
I mean, I ended up here in the woods. I don't know. It's still kind of wonky. I go left when I leave here, yes?
Well, because the PsilocyBen is the mascot, and he's on this journey going down from basically North Conway-ish to
Started in Bridgeton.
Bridgeton,
Yes.
to Portland.
Yeah, and
And I'm on the way,
Yeah,
so to speak.
He's trying to find his way. That's his goal, getting him to Maine Fungi Fest. So
He gonna get there.
This state is huge, though. Did you know? It's unreasonably cold outside still.
It is fucking cold.
It's brutal.
I'm so glad it's March and it's almost summer.
I am ready.
For real.
it's a rebirth. Yeah.
For real. All right. Is there anything else you want to say about Fungi Fest or Fungi?
No, just if you feel the need to tap into something greater and bigger, then I think this is a great place to begin that journey.
Okay, cool. So you said mainefungifest.org?
Yes.
And
And Instagram, Facebook,
everything. Maine Fungi
That's-
Fest. Key those words in, and you'll find us.
Okay, and PsilocyBen, where can they say what's up to you?
Yeah. So most of my videos are ending up on the on Instagram and Facebook.
You can find PsilocyBen right on our site. Yeah.
That's my main vein for expressing this journey thus far.
Swag. All right. Well, shit. Thanks for coming on the Movie Rant Break, motherfuckers. I really appreciate it. You guys are dope, and I think
This was awesome, man. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, no doubt.
It's appreciated. We appreciate you having communicating with other folks and talking this up and sharing your ideas and getting these conversations started.
Yeah, trying. All right. Well, thank you everybody for listening to this episode. Appreciate y'all. I'll catch you next episode. Deuces.